All right, welcome back to the Rise with Anita podcast. I'm so excited for today's solo episode because it's all about confidence, which this episode might trigger some, but what I'm hoping it will do is really awaken you to the fact that confidence isn't something you can fake. It's something you remember. It's what rises when your identity finally starts catching up to your power. So, this episode isn't about how to be bolder or louder. This is about becoming the woman or man who trusts herself or himself to start moving before the applause. Which, interestingly enough, as I'm recording this, has been a theme that's came up over the last week about 3 times. So it's all just confirmation that this was what I was meant to touch on. But before we start, I'm curious if you want to ponder this with me and maybe let me know via the DMs. What if the reason you don't feel confident is because you keep betraying yourself in the micro moments of your life? So here's the thing. I know we live in the Amazon Prime day and age, so we tend to think of our confidence being tied to things like virality, the validation you receive from your external world, the volume of business you might be pulling in. Essentially, a lot of confidence these days is tied to the cultural programming of performing for confidence. Especially for women, this can look like us looking a certain way to be put together, to be polished, to not be too much. But confidence isn't always about being right. It's about being rooted in yourself, in your truth, even if you're uncertain. So for me, this has kind of showed up multiple ways. And I'm just going to take a moment to pause here because I want to embody something that I've been experiencing and it's been hitting me in the heart the last couple of days, especially. But there are days that you will catch me being fully vulnerable behind this mic because what I found is the more that we try to look like we're perfect and we're polished and put together, the more we can actually be seen through. And these are things that I'm still working on. It's still a lever I'm pulling to feel more confident. But here's the thing, I've started to show up as the confident version of me. I've started to embody the confident version of me. So when I think about instances in my own life, about how I had opportunities to be seen, but I wasn't in my own power. A lot of that comes from instances in my corporate life where I used to hustle and grind and I did everything, but I was not being seen outside of the grind. I was visible for how hard I was working, but I was not seen as my true authentic self because I was not allowing myself to be there. And now I'm starting to just show up. And that looks like showing up, posting my content. It looks like how I'm connecting with people. And you guys get this beautiful kind of integration of topics, I guess you could say, because I was on a couple of calls today that really helped hone in something for me, which was how often do we have our confidence tied to a fake version of ourselves that we're trying to put out because of that whole fake it till you make it culture, which I don't know if I can really say I align with that now that I've looked at my life and how often, anytime I've tried to fake anything then other than what I was the one suffering. But I'm all about the process of becoming, and we will get into that. But to go back to that point I was making regarding those calls, I realized today how often we actually forget our own essence and forget to present our own essence, the lover, the light, the giver. And we look at ourselves tied to these external circumstances, whether that's money, fame, the people in your life that are validating or not validating you. And I have a mentor who really honed in on a point a few weeks ago that stuck with me. And I do believe I said this in another episode, which was conviction over validation. And that really stuck with me because when you're convicted in your message, when you're convicted and certain in what it is you're creating, you don't need the external validation to show up. You show up anyways, and eventually your frequency matches that of the validation that you'll receive. But the true beauty is in that consistent conviction, showing up with certainty, showing up that you're a match for it. And I'm realizing this point in my own life where the more I show up, the more that bleeds into the confidence I have, the more my word has value within my own self. So it's not about proving myself anymore to anyone else. It is about owning who I am, owning what I want, owning the message that is on my heart versus having me looking at, oh, did they like my comment? Did they connect with me? It's not about that. It's about the output of serving at a higher level and being the person who's consistent with her word. And honestly, I'm realizing that true confidence comes from within. It comes from being the person that is already inside of you versus the performative side of you. So I'm touched on the her method quite a few times now, which is leading into my signature program. But how does this topic of confidence really blend in with the her method? Well, let's start. H is heal. And let's just be honest here. Confidence cannot be stacked against unworthiness. I had this beautiful and triggering reminder that when you feel unworthy, you cannot be simultaneously confident. Not 100%, not authentically. And when you are actually in your unworthiness wound, you are actually closing yourself off to all the possibilities. And what it looks like to heal from this on a standpoint of confidence specifically is how many times do you say yes when you truly want to say no? or how many times you walk into the room and you shut yourself down or you downplay your gifts, even though you're brilliant, even though you can add value, because you are trying to fit a box. So these little betrayals end up adding up to huge strikes against our confidence. And I got this reminder that it was ironically something I've been wholeheartedly working on, which is the woman you become or you're becoming doesn't negotiate her value because she's starting to heal the parts of herself that she thought she had to. And here's the thing. This part is definitely something I am actively working on. And I've learned that while triggers get a bad rep oftentimes, I would say that things that trigger you are things that are meant for you to look at to heal because there are no coincidences. So, food for thought. But going back to embody, when it comes to embodiment, and I've started to talk a lot about this on my Instagram, I'm really looking at it from a standpoint of can you calibrate your nervous system to feel safe with what it is that you are wanting? Can you feel safe and confident in the fact that you want what you want and you're able to hold that? Because confidence really comes from the decisions that we make from that identity when nobody's watching. It's not about can I perform on the external world and be met with likes, comments, shares, but rather when the doors are closed and no one can see what I'm thinking or feeling, can I embody the part of me that already has what I want? Can I embody this version of me that feels confident, safe to be seen? So, confidence is starting to walk into the room, knowing you already belong there before anyone else knows your name. Did that land? Because for me, I have been guilty of being the shy person when in reality, it was from me dimming my own light and hiding because I was not carrying my own confident, radiant energy into that room. I did not start to feel into how I wanted to show up. And that was one of my biggest tips is start visualizing and start anchoring in the feeling of how you want to be showing up. It's not about the external circumstances. It's about how you want to pour into the people around you. R for rise, because this is the Rise with Anita podcast, of course. And jokes aside, this looks like taking action when the outcome isn't guaranteed or starting to post when no one is actually watching you. And what I've noticed a lot of times in this space, we tend to wait for clarity. We wait for the idea. So then we can start taking the action. And what I found, especially in the momentum I'm having in the last few weeks, is that if you start taking the action, the clarity actually comes. Isn't that funny? We always have this reverse idea that You need clarity on what it is you need to do in order to take the action. But the true momentum comes from taking the action, and the clarity of your next steps unfolding comes through afterwards. And this is something I struggle with full-heartedly. Owning your wins as data of growth and celebrating them. And this is where I say I suck and I'm working on it. Celebrate the wins. And I had this beautiful moment a couple of weeks ago where I was sharing some of the amazing things that are going on in my life. And my friend Elizabeth, if you're listening to this, stopped me and goes, Anita, how are you celebrating this momentum? And I was like, oh, celebrate. I don't know. I've just been kind of grinding through. And she literally asked me again, how are you going to celebrate this momentum? And I decided to take myself out for some yogurt, frozen yogurt that day, as a small treat. But it also looked like me having a little solo dance party because life gets to be amazing and it should be rewarded. But how often do we think about our next goal or our next achievement, the next action we need to take without celebrating what's already working out for you in the fit moment? So here's the thing. You don't need to really be more confident. You just need to stop pretending that you're not already powerful. Confidence is not built on external validation. It's built in your own presence, in your own promises kept, in your own energy and power embodied. And here's the funniest thing I found in life. Anytime you admire someone, it's usually some sort of trait you are attracted to. And if you pay close enough attention, what's magnetizing you to that person tends to be a trait that's already inside of you that you're hiding or you're shelved. You've shelved it for a while. So the identity you're trying to quote unquote become isn't new. It's buried under your layers of survival or unworthiness. You're not building her, you're returning home to her. So, as we close this one out, where are you outsourcing your confidence right now? Where are you asking the world to start clapping for you when you haven't even claimed that version of you yet? I am so grateful for those of you who tuned in. If this message landed on your heart or made an impact on you, anyways, please feel free to DM me. Let's start a conversation at Arise with Anita. And I'm so looking forward to hearing from you.